When you start a new game and first enter into a new world, seeing it laid out before you, there is this sense of mystery, the unknown, where you might go, who you're going to kick off a cliff, and then after many hours, days, weeks, you go and explore this world, and what was a mystery at first becomes familiar and known. Now, I want to pose a question to you. How big of a world did you just explore? You traveled down into this valley, and then set off in some direction of your choosing. How far do you think you went this way? Across grasslands, into and through valleys, following rivers, lakes, roads. You climbed mountains. You traveled the entire length of this island, from one end to the other. So, how far did you actually go? How much land did you cover in this journey? If you want to get a sense of that, go ahead and open a Maps app on your phone right now. Press and hold right where you are right this moment, and then select Measure Distance, and zoom and drag that line up until you have a line that goes either 9 miles or like 14K. That's how far you've explored north and south. Now drag that line left or right, east or west of you, and go about 5 or 6K, or like 3 or 4 miles. It kind of varies in the game, but that is roughly how far east and west you've gone. This is the amount of land that you have been running around on horseback exploring since you began this game. But now the question might come, wait, isn't Ezo way bigger than that? Now this is where, if you want to just live in that magical realm for a moment, this is where you stop this video and go have a nice thought before you move on to the next video or finish pooping or, whatever you're doing. Because I'm about to show you how I calculated that, and if you don't care, that's cool. Go do something cool with your day. Okay, I think everyone but the spreadsheet people are gone. Alright, spreadsheet people. If this was Ghost of Tsushima, we would just set a pin to one end to the island and check the distance. Boom, video done. But Ghost of Yotei doesn't have that. But hold on, we can still do this. We just need 2 things, a map and a ruler. Let's start with the ruler. And while Atsu does not have one of those, she does have a katana. And we know the length of her blade is going to be somewhere between 60 and 80 centimeters long. But to narrow that down, we're going to need to go in here and roll around on these mats, because these are tatami mats, and they too have known standard sizes, but which are the 3 sizes? If we grab the scale between her katana and the mats, we can plot things out and figure out what blade length is required for the mats to be the right size, and if her katana is 60 centimeters, then the mats are correctly sized. If her katana is any longer than that, then the mats are also too big. We can confidently say that her katana is 60 centimeters long. Okay, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Alright, so now I may be insane, but I am not measure the whole island one katana at a time insane. I'm more like, go to this beautiful bridge, use her katana to measure the width of a plank, multiply by the number of planks to get the bridge's length, and then time how long it takes to run across the length so we can calculate the running speed insane. So now we know Atsu's running speed is 7.8 katanas a second, or if you need boring old units, that's like 17K or 11 miles per hour. But you know what else is the same length as a katana? Apparently an Ezo Red Fox. So rather than me having to say both metric and freedom units this whole video, let's just go with happy little foxes lined up in a row as our unit of measure. And that's excluding the tail. We're going butt to nose here. All right, so Atsu runs about 7.8 foxes per second, which means we can measure long distances just by timing how long it takes to run between them. We have unlocked a ruler. Okay, the second big thing we need is a map. And I'm not talking about this stylized map. I'm talking about a true view of the real game island. We need to get very high. And this isn't remotely high enough. We need the photo mode breakout, which is a glitch feature, let's call it a feature, that lets you escape the normal bounds of photo mode and go as far as you want. And while this is really cool, it is very slow to move vast distances. And while I did hit these buttons over and over again for like 2 hours to get this shot in this old video, how about this time we program an accessibility app that can send simulated touch events to the remote play app on my phone, and we'll just let that run for like 2 hours. And we come back, and voila, we've reached high enough to see the whole island. So now we have a ruler, we have a map. The last thing we need to do is use the two of them to calculate a map scale. Let's pick out a large feature like this marsh, pick 2 precise points, then run between them and calculate the distance, 1,046 foxes long. Now we can add a scale to our map, and we've finally gained the ability to measure anything we want right here on this map. This tells us the playable area is 24,157 foxes long. And if each of those is 60 centimeters, we come back to the numbers we saw at the beginning, about 14.5K or 9 miles. So yeah, the game Ezo is a little bit smaller than the real one, just, like 31 times smaller. But what about Mount Yotei? Did they still scale the mountains? That looks like a mountain to me. They pretty faithfully recreated the peak of Mount Yotei, so if we can measure the distance across, we can tell you exactly how much it's been scaled. But the problem is we can't run directly across. But we can fire an arrow at a tree far away, time how long it takes to hit it, run to get the distance, and calculate the arrow speed is 347 foxes a second. Knowing this, we can just shoot an arrow across the peak and find that it is 539 foxes across in the game. In real life, it's a little more than double at 1,300 across. So while the whole island is scaled down 31 times, Mount Yotei is much closer to a real mountain. And you can really see this scaling difference if you look at a map of real Ezo, where Mount Yotei is this tiny thing here, versus the game where Mount Yotei takes up this whole region. And I know it looks a little silly from up here, but from down here where you actually play the game, I think they did a really good job of creating this immersive world and sense of scale without making you have to ride for hours between each quest. So one final thing we can answer if you want is, how does this playable area compare to Ghost of Tsushima's? In real life, Tsushima Island is way smaller than Ezo. And while Tsushima was scaled down for that game, Ezo was scaled down a lot more. And if you rotate Ezo and trim off the parts of the island excluded from the game, the two game islands have very similar sizes. And since Ghost of Tsushima had a built-in way to measure, we can see that these are pretty much the same size. Now, the point of all this is not to diminish the scale of the adventure that we all just went on. If anything, it's to show you how much of a world you're actually interested in exploring. I mean, from the comfort of your couch, probably snuggled under a blanket with a hot beverage, and your dog is next to you snoozing. So yeah, but hey, it's kind of interesting to think about.